My never say ma PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV there. Osia dem yopo.
Piquet is my guest tonight, and is with me here in his office. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
for the time,
and thank you to you and all your many viewers as well. Happy always to be with you.
Give me your verdict on that point I was making. Which is more difficult, being a general secretary of a party in opposition or the party being a general secretary of a party in power?
Different challenges, I would say. In opposition, you understand the challenges, how to navigate through the difficulty of opposition, keep hope alive, ensure that you put in the strategies to ensure that you'll be able to win. Sometimes you work hard and it doesn't pan out the way you expect. So that has its own challenges. And of course, in government, it comes its own challenges as well. Now it's a question of having one power. How do we ensure that, first and foremost, you keep up the whole expectation in terms of what it is you promise that you're going to do. Much more, how do you ensure that your millions of supporters have the expectations met? How do you ensure that you are able to remain, shall I call it, very poised in preparation towards the next election that is on the way? So I would say different challenges. I wouldn't say one is easier than the other. I would just say that they are different.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you've been in power before. You were a minister before. Now you are a party in power, but you are the general secretary. Over the last 4 months, the first quarter, you set yourself an ambitious target of achieving a few things, 26 of them, in a 120-day period. We call it the social contract. We've been assessing that over the last few days. The president himself did a national address on it. That was a precedent, but the president came into power on the back of a political party, the NDC, of which you're general secretary. What is the party's own verdict on your 120-day social contract?
I would say that so far it's been good. So far it's been good. First of all, let me begin by saying that we need to appreciate the fact that we have a leader who has had the opportunity before, first as a vice president and also as a president. And after 8 years in opposition, he definitely has come with a renewed commitment to ensuring that he leaves a legacy. And that is always important. When a leader is that determined to ensure that this second chance is a chance for him to be able to leave a lasting legacy, it makes the job of the party easier. When it is that the leader is feeling like, this is just an opportunity to try and do something, it's not the same as when you are feeling that, listen, you've had, because when you've been in office for 4 years as president, and then you go through the difficulty we went through in the election in 2016, when it effectively looked like John Mahama was gone and gone for good, because so huge was that humiliating defeat that very few people expected that he could make a comeback. And then you go through 8 years in opposition, and then you are given an opportunity, and this is your final opportunity. It makes you super sober, very humble, and very determined to ensure that this opportunity is one that you do not want to play with. Let me give you a little more dimension to it, because we've had that conversation. I'm talking the president and myself, we've spoken about that. A lot of people do not realize that. In 2009, when we won power with Prof. Mills, the very minute that Prof. Mills was declared by Farijan as a president-elect, it was exactly 11:11 in the morning. A lot of people do not realize that. And when John Mahama was being inaugurated, it was not planned at all. Exactly the minute that he was inaugurated, swearing that oath of office, exactly it was again 11:11. Somebody say, "Oh, just
what are you reading to that?"
Somebody say, "Just coincidence." It's not coincidence. It's an omen. It's a divine omen that something high is going to have to happen to the country, and John is being given an opportunity to usher that greatness into the country. 11:11 just means things are aligned. It simply means that the stars are aligning. And we, more than any group, must appreciate. And if you notice the nature of the victory NDC had, that was not just a political victory. That victory is far, far, far more. I call it a divine victory. So NDC, millions of our supporters need to appreciate that this is far more than just an NDC victory. It was a Ghana victory. It was the very soul of Ghana that was making a statement that I need to get into a different level. And you are just a vehicle I need to use. And if you cannot rise up to that occasion, you have to go and we need to find another vehicle to do it. So I'm happy that the president appreciates what I call the skill of the expectation and the blessing that he's been given to be able to rise to that occasion and take the party with him and take the country with him. So I would say over the last few months, he has remained, should I call it, conscious of that, and he's trying super hard to rise to that occasion and take the country with him. So you can see there's a certain, should I call it, determination on his part to want to live up to that huge mandate that he knows.
The assessment had come in on the 120. Let's look at the specifics now. Imani, for example, did the assessment which we launched on our show, and they scored him 52, which is a mere pass percent of the 26 things that he put out. Because it's so quantitative, it's very objective to assess which ones have been achieved and which ones haven't. We did our own assessment around the same percentage, around 52, 54 percent. Of course, the MPP believes it is lower than that, 46%, which really isn't great. But away from the politics, we'll come to what the political party says. 52 and 54 is a mere pass. In 120 days, you haven't really achieved excellence in 120 days, have you?
No, I mean, we're not expecting to achieve excellence in 4 months. First of all, you must appreciate that we are taking over a country that is not in a very good place. And that is not just being political. It's a country that's not in a good place. It's a country that's not just politically, economically, should I call it, weakened country. We're talking about a country that's gone through what I call 8 years of moral decadence. You cannot have gone through 8 years of such soulless leadership as we have seen in Nana Akufo-Addo and Bawumia, and expect that within a matter of 4 months everything is going to just be excellent. No.
Except that you gave yourself target.
I
26
agree.
things you want to achieve in 120 days. So you're marking based on your own commitments.
I agree.
And if you set the commitments, the civil society guys give you a 50%.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Ultimately, what matters more is what the people of Ghana feel.
What do you think they feel?
I think the people of Ghana feel confident that they have a leadership that is not perfect, but leadership that is determined to ensure that it does far, far, far better than what we have seen over the last 8 years. Not just in terms of the character of the leadership, but in terms of the desire to accomplish something for the country. Not to spend all the time and lamenting over the past, but try to fix the problem as we see it. A leadership that clearly you can see is what you call sowing seeds that will bring about a transformation of the economy. And generally, it's a leadership that we've been there before. And if you remember, the first 4 years of Atamils, when President Mahama then was the chairman of the economic management team, I mean, you could see we did a lot of remarkable things. Some of the things we've done difficult to literally attain by any government. And we believe that we can still literally even do far, far, far more now. So it's true. I mean, the civil society and so on, cool. So we're happy that at least, given the difficulties we are facing, they at least have given us a pass. That's okay. We will not say that that is necessarily a tragedy. We would work even harder to ensure that over the next 1 year and more, we actually accelerate.
One of the key tasks of the government, part of the 126 promises, commitment that you made for 120 days is the Jumara, which was to create a vehicle that, in essence, would employ people. Now, the criticism of that is, if you look at NDC's own history in government, you have the SUBA, you have the GIDA, you have the Youth Employment Program, that then becomes a vehicle for corruption, abuse, and waste. And several studies have shown that government-led employment machines do not deliver the outcomes, and that what you need to do is empower the private sector to deliver these outcomes in terms of employment and raise the unemployment and deal with unemployment levels. But you still have in the NDC's big objectives, in Jumara, and state-led employment initiatives. Has the NDC learned the lesson of how you suffered in the last John Dramani Mahama administration, when he himself had to commission investigations in some of these agencies? People were actually jailed as a result of that. Has a lesson been learned?
Yeah, I would say transitions take time to happen. Transitions take time to happen. For instance, if you check our manifesto, one of the key ways we want to bring about the issue about creation of employment is what we are calling the National Apprenticeship Program. Now, this program is simply it's not the same as what you call a NAPCO program, where we are literally just using what you call revenue and giving out to people on a monthly basis and pretending as if we are created employment. I mean, and I want to say, as General Secretary of the party, I'm the first to say that the country as a whole need to look into the mirror and accept that a lot of these attempt to simply take state resource and pretend that job is being created. I mean, we need to make a transition away from it. I'm talking about the apprenticeship program. The aim of it is simply to provide, should I call it the logistical capacity to a lot of our people who are especially operating in the private sector, so that they'll be able to start running on their own. Now, Evans, you must appreciate that we are talking about an economy that still is largely an informal economy. I've not checked the latest statistics, but I still believe that at least up to 80% of people who are employed in this economy are informal sector people. The what you call the formal sector, in terms of the public sector, maximum maybe 800,000 people are employed are on government payroll. If you take those who are working in what you call the formal private sector, like maybe you, people working in the private banks, working in telecom and so on, I don't think we're talking about even up to 2 million people. So it's an economy that continues largely to be very informal. Now, if you have an initiative that is trying to provide logistical capacity to people who are in that informal sector, in order for them to literally start doing something on their own, that is a very major effort to be able to transform the informal economy and start enabling these individuals to grow their personal, shall I call it, economies, and start getting more income. And as they expand, then they also can employ people. Then over time, you're talking about scaling of abilities in order for them to become much more formalized, and it becomes good for the economy as a whole. So I would say that is not something that can happen overnight, but over time, I believe that we would be able to, as it were, get a lot more people to get more income as they take what you call their own destiny in their own hand through the state just providing a facilitation. Evans, what I want to say is just that the real economy is definitely going to be a private sector economy. And private sector, sometimes when we mention private sector, people just assume it must mean that we're talking about the, shall I call it, the MTNs of this world, or the banks, or maybe the Talos of this world. No, private economy just means individuals who are literally doing things on their own. So the carpenter by the roadside is a private sector person. Because every morning when he wakes up, his destiny is in his own hand. He's not waiting on government to come and give him his income. He's literally taking care of his customers. He wants to produce more in order to be able to get more. So the plan is to ensure that you create the opportunity for a lot more people in that informal private sector economy to do better. And it simply means that our work as a government is to how to ensure that stability is brought in order to enable these individuals to do better.
But how do you also stop abuse of because the government resources is going to be used to train these apprentices?
Mm-hmm.
The challenge in the past has been then that becomes a black hole into which you put money that you don't get the returns back, but a closer examination then begin to expose apparent abuse.
Yeah.
And the party should be very aware of that. I mean, do you appreciate that is a challenge that you have to confront?
Yeah, it's definitely always a challenge.
And how are you doing that? I mean, from the party's point of view, you have to work with the government. Because your people will be in charge.
Yeah, but what I can tell you is simple. If anyone within a party or within government believes that this is just business as usual, that means that the person or the group of people don't understand what is going on.
When you say it's not business
as opposed to what happened over the last 8 years, where you could literally take advantage of some of these things and then take care of yourself and do it at the expense of the country. This time around, no matter who you are, if you get involved and you do anything that amounts to literally shortchanging the country, that party at the highest level is not going to shield you. The party at the highest level is not going to in any way say that, oh, it's a party person, let go. No. Reset means reset. It's simply the business as usual is over. Things have to be done properly. Now, we can also not simply give up and say that simply because in the past there were challenges, we cannot rise to do better things today.
I mean, but isn't that rhetoric?
Yeah.
I mean, we will deal with you. With parties and politicians have said in the past. We have a president once who came and said, if you want to make money, my government is not the place to be.
That's true.
We saw what happens. The anti-corruption reports told the story. I mean, and you have to just look at the corruption perception index.
I understand that.
When I hear you say that,
but it's different.
We've had this before.
But it's different.
What's different?
It's different. We're talking about a bar that was pretty low. We're talking about a previous government that clearly was heavy on talk, but too little on genuine, should I call it, delivery. We're talking about a president that really just believed that it's all about reading great speeches and not so much about putting his foot down and ensuring that things are done well. Now, John Mahama is not perfect, but even in his previous mandate, he clearly did a number of things that very many leaders wouldn't do. He clearly showed, for example, that if you don't get it right, he's not hesitant to take decisions that ought to be taken. For example, over the last 8 years, you barely could see a president having the courage to even do reshuffle. It's almost as if he was even scared of his own appointees. This president is not scared to fire you at the least opportunity. He's not scared to ensure that if you do what is wrong, you are dealt with. He's shown that in the past. And this time around, because again, he said that he's here for legacy, it simply means that the resolve is even higher.
He said that?
Oh yeah, he said it again and again, that he's here for legacy. He wants to ensure that he leaves a legacy. So he's not here to come and countenance anyone shortchanging the country and just thinking about himself. And now as General Secretary, and I can tell you that even within the corridors of cabinet, this statement has been said again and again.
That the president
meaning the very highest group of people who are in charge of this country do know that none of them is going to be spared if they do anything that shortchanges the country.
They've been told in no uncertain terms.
Absolutely, in no uncertain terms, not just by the leadership as a presidential leadership, but also by the leadership of the party. So it means everybody on the same wavelength. You are on your own. We are not covering nobody. Do what is right, because Ghana has to simply set a new benchmark for leadership, and that means the country must be number one.
I mean, one of the things that the president attempted to, what he has done, that so far is evidence possibly of what you're suggesting, is the code of conduct that he's launched. Or come to some of the specifics, because that speaks to the question. Okay, so you're saying this. If you say it's not rhetoric, then show me the evidence that you mean business. The president has launched a code of conduct. But is that enough? Because this is a code of conduct. He hasn't, it's just moral suasion. He hasn't got a force of law. The previous government started a bill, the public conduct of officers bill that should have gone to parliament, that didn't go. So it's like you say, if you really want to show that you mean business, what you do is not just to launch a code of conduct and outdo it, but what you do is to go to parliament with all the huge numbers you have there and have it pass into a law that will have sanctions backed by law that people indeed know that they can mess around with. It doesn't put all the power in the hands of the president,
Yeah.
put the power in the hands of a court of competence jurisdiction.
Yeah, Evans, I mean, that may well be the case. But let me just say it this way. We don't even have a code of conduct in 2013 when Victoria Mahama was dismissed from her position merely for having expressed the desire to want to have up to $1 million. There was no code of conduct, and that was done. What I'm trying to say is that, and that was even a president who at the time was not given a final opportunity to want to do something that will have lasting benefit to his country. What I'm trying to say is this, and in terms of code of conduct, going through parliament and so on, those I think are processes that as a country we can try to perfect, and I'm for anything that will make the country a better country. But I'm saying even outside of the code of conduct, every single person in government and all the people who are involved do know that this is not a leader who is going to look on for anybody to do any certain thing. And that's not all. This also is not a party whose leadership wants business as usual. We want things done well. Why? Because we are humble enough to appreciate that this victory is not simply a victory for NDC. It's a victory that came from the people of Ghana, and the people of Ghana clearly wants the bar to be higher, and we need to do something better.
So you mentioned that you'll be fired, you'll be sanctioned. I've not heard you say that the president will have the temerity to actually prosecute his own, if indeed you're foul the law.
Oh, but Evans, you should. That I think goes without saying. We even established it. We did even the same thing in the last mandate, where one of our own was prosecuted and jailed during our time. So it tells you it's not something even new for us. I mean, if we are talking about the fact that anyone who falls short would not be spared, it simply means that, in fact, what it is we said again and again, and again, I can tell you these are things that have been discussed at the highest level, that it's not just about NPP facing the law for having done what is wrong. It's about setting a tone that NDC will exactly go through the same route if we fall short of it. Why? Because, as I told you, Evans, this country is stirring, and this country is going to a different level. And we, at the level of leadership today, appreciate that the Ghana we know is stirring to become a higher Ghana. And therefore, I mean, the mark must be, the bar must be higher. So this business about, that's why I feel a bit sad that somehow the political class, especially our friends on the other side, are not appreciating that, for example, the humiliation they went through was not just NDC defeating them. It was Ghana telling them that, enough is enough. We are tired with the deception. We are tired with the arrogance. We are tired with the corruption. We are tired with you insulting our intelligence. Now, if we in the NDC do not understand that the mood of the country is a different mode, it means that we actually are even should I call it, we are even less wise than the NPP. Now, I'm saying that the politics must start changing. For NPP, for example, to appreciate that this whole business about trying to simply gaslight the country, hoping that you can come back to power, that's not the way it works. The country is smarter. So, for example, deceiving the country, for example, that, the return of NDC has brought doom so. When the people of Ghana are smart enough to know that after 8 years, you literally left the energy sector of this country in total jeopardy. You've totally destroyed the very foundations of the energy sector. Therefore, the problem that we're having today is not a creation of a 4-month-old government, but something that you have done. And they actually believe that they can go about deceiving the country. It simply tells you that they haven't yet understood why they were humiliated. They don't understand that the mood of the country is a different mood. The young people in Ghana today are smarter. They are not going to just fall for what I call the typical, spin that in the past could get you victory. Now they expect you to be much more truthful. They expect you to be much more factual. They expect you to literally understand that the people are smart and therefore tell the truth and win them with truth, as opposed to trying to deceive them with all kinds of lies, thinking they are not smart enough to appreciate.
I mean, it's still talking about this issue about not business as usual. I look at your code of conduct, and I keep going there because it's so far the only evidence that you want to change course.
Sure.
Why have you set a gift threshold of 20,000 cedis? That's a very high threshold. In other words, if somebody gives you a gift of 20,000 cedis, it's fine to take it. But 20,000 cedis is a lot of money when the globally accepted standard is something very, very low that it's unable to influence the actions of a public officer.
20,000 works to
C's.
will work to how much in dollars roughly?
Yeah, you have $1,000 plus.
Maybe about $1,000. Anyway, what I would say is simple.
That's a lot of money.
What I would say is simple. These are conversations that we need
But
to.
it's $1,200 thereabout.
I'm saying these are conversations that we need to engage in with a view of perfecting. Whatever we have today should not be seen as something which is there for life. It's obviously something that, as a result of conversations, you can always vary them. I would say.
Should it be varied?
I'm saying that that's what I prefer for the conversations to be done in order for the country as a whole to come to an appreciation of what it ought to be.
But if this
so
was
I'm
a
not
test,
I'm not going to say that
if the code of conduct was a test of your commitment to doing things differently,
Yeah.
and we know gift has always been the biggest challenge for public office holders, isn't the 20,000 once sending the wrong signal? That is still business as usual. You're setting them bar to be comfortable.
My genuine truth is that if you truly want to solve the problem of corruption in Ghana, you're not going to solve it by simply changing 20,000 to 10,000. It's much deeper than that.
But it's a start.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, that the conversation needs to continue in order for us to be able to get a threshold that we ought to get. But I'm saying that we need to appreciate that we are dealing with a problem that is much deeper. We are dealing with what you call, let's call it a society-wide difficulty. A problem that actually starts from the very family level, through the community. A society that believes that, listen, corruption is corruption only when you are not sharing the booty. So Evans is not corrupt as long as Evans can share the booty. But when Evans is able to share that booty among Keith and King, Evans is not corrupt. Evans is a generous person. And if you have a society whose mindset is that things are okay once the person is sharing, then that society has quite a long way to go.
Leadership.
So that's what I'm saying.
Leadership is what you need to change that.
I agree. But don't forget, leadership per se does not remove all the problems. Leadership can set a certain example. But in order to have a sustainable solution, you need to transcend just those who are merely at the nominal level of leadership and appreciate that it is a society-wide problem, and therefore we need to find ways in which it can permeate across the whole society. Because don't forget, leaders are simply a product of the society. Evans is where he is, and it's a product of a school. It's a product of a family. It's a product of a community. You don't simply just transform into an angel just because you move from that community and become Evans. No. Where you are, you still are carrying those values and so on. So sometimes it's important to work on the threshold, that's it. But I think in order to have a sustainable solution, we need to transcend just mere what you call thresholds and go into a wider conversation that could bring about transformation.
Let's talk about something that you have, I guess, your biggest challenge yet, the filling the municipal district, municipal metropolitan and metropolitan assembly chief executives positions across the country. I know the party has been involved in this very keenly. In the past, it's been that single process that, if not managed properly, will set the party up either for success or failure down the line because of the potential for it to be very acrimonious. How are you managing this process differently? Has anything changed? Or is this still keeping with the business as usual conversation that we've been having? Because we've seen a fair bit of chaos across the country.
Sure. I would say relatively, we've done far better now than we had in the past.
What are you doing differently?
Let's say, for example, in 2009, I mean, it took us literally forever to be able to even have the MMDCs in place. This time around, we've been able to accomplish that within the first 100 days. And so that tells you that we appreciate that it's important not simply to have what you call appointees at the top, but you must have appointees all the way in every district of the country in order for you to know that you are truly in charge of the things. This time around, we also ensured that we made the process to be as comprehensive as possible. We created an opportunity to allow as many people as possible to show an interest. We went through what you call a first vetting in order to be able to narrow down, the applicants. And then after that, brought them to the national level where we took our time to be able to do a proper vetting of them. And we didn't just do it based on what we know of them. We actually even got different groups to give us a thorough, assessment of the various individuals in order to gauge what the mood of the country was in the various districts. So, for example, we got research group that, for example, was able to give us a lot of information relating to what really does the ground want as to the people who are whose name were coming up out of them. This one has got what you call the capacity.
So you adopted a scientific approach to it?
Absolutely, we had that. We had, for example, a proper, a very comprehensive, security report that also gave us a lot of information. We consulted what you call the chiefs and so on. So we try as much as possible to come down.
And what was the objective of this? What did you want to
We
understand?
wanted to make sure we narrow, we pick individuals who as much as possible reflected the aspirations of the people as much as possible. You cannot get it perfect, but at least you can narrow it to ensure that if Evans is the one we are settling for, Evans is emerging in the assessment that are coming. And the assessment being done by what you call the intelligence group, the assessment being done by the security group, what the chiefs are saying. So as much as possible, what the party is saying. So you look at all that and then finally come upon a decision. I would say, by and large, we did a fairly good job. But for that, you would have seen far more outcry, far more anger.
So are you surprised then to learn and see that in some of the places have been acrimonial nonetheless?
It's normal. You would know, you should appreciate it. As long as humans are humans, especially these are positions that everybody wants. So sometimes Evans wants it, and Evans is not able to get it. Evans finds a way to stalk his admirers and followers to go make some noise, get some media people who can hear me, and so on. It's normal. It's politics. You appreciate. So, but you can get it 100%.
Is the party not imposing your own people on district, municipal assemblies, municipal assemblies?
No, actually, it's the opposite. Because if we wanted to run a position, why would we go through 2 months plus of rigorous vetting? And I'm talking every single day.
You needed a cover.
Why would I go through that?
Cover.
No, why would we had a lot to do.
You have a good smoke screen.
We had a lot to do. We're talking about the first 100 days of a government. There's so much to do. Why would we go through over 2 months of rigorous vetting from morning through to night, sometimes as late as we're almost getting to midnight, busy working, trying to get these applicants through a rigorous. You won't go through that unless you are trying very hard to get the best that you can on the ground.
Then how are you managing your members of parliament? Because that is where the friction is. Members of parliament not agreeing or at opposite ends with the district chief executive, for example. It always sets the stage. Maybe the chief executive has his own ambitions to oust the incumbent members of parliament.
Sure.
How have you managed that?
That's always a tough one. That's always a very tough one. I've been a member of parliament myself, so I can appreciate that as much as possible, you want there to be harmony between yourself and the chief executive, also within the same district or municipality, as much as possible. So we try very much to find ways to ascertain what I call the intentions of those applicants. If, for instance, we notice that you've already had a very acrimonious relationship with a particular MP already, as much as possible, we wouldn't let you be the chief executive, because we don't want to create a situation where right from the word-go there's going to be just what you call a fight between two individuals who are supposed to be working together, to advance the cause of a community. So right from the word-go, we try to, as much as possible, look for individuals who are interested in harmonious collaboration rather than individuals having their own agenda, who instead of thinking about how to work hard for the community, is saying about how can I upstage you and take your place. So that is one. But that is not the only one. The main challenge, however, is often sometimes is that some of the MPs are a bit too insecure. So almost everybody is supposed to be threats for the future. So even if Evans doesn't even show that I have even a plan to work against you, I really don't want Evans, because Evans looks like one who maybe tomorrow can change his mind. That becomes difficult, you understand? Because you need to appreciate that humans, people who are working hard, they need to be given an opportunity. We simply can't be making decisions based on your insecurities and your fears for the future. Otherwise, it means that nobody will have any opportunity as long as your own fears and insecurities are there. So this is a delicate balance, and I would say we try hard to navigate it in order to ensure that as much as possible we choose individuals who reflect the real aspiration of the ground.
And that is the General Secretary of the NDC, is so my guest here on PMX. So I'm going to take a quick break. When I return, this is John Dramani Mahama's last term. He says this is a legacy term. But the party will have a big decision to make. And John Mahama has been the face of the party for a long time, since 2012. They will have a new face in 2028. That always will give any general secretary and chairman sleepless nights. How do you manage this transition process? Because if you do fail, it can be the unmaking of the NDC. I'll ask him his thoughts on how the party plans to manage an outcome that will still leave the NDC in a strong position to challenge in the 2028 election. Stay with me here on PM Express. The General Secretary of the NDC, the Governing National Democratic Congress, is my guest on PM Express. We've talked a lot about the party, about the 120-day contract and the process underway across the country to ensure that all DCs have their chief executives. That is a major task that he's still managing. But for that to all work and come together, the economy must hold. And Mr. Kwete, in the last few weeks, the CD has been performing creditably against all the major currencies. But it reminds me of something that Bawumia said in 2017, first quarter, I believe, where he says they have locked the CD in the cell.
They've arrested the dollar.
They've arrested the dollar. They've arrested the dollar and given the key to the IGP. And he boasted about it at the time. We all know how he ended, right?
Sure.
In the last few weeks, you've been, your party in government have been doing wonders when it comes to the CD. Where you stand, knowing that history, how much are you ready to celebrate on the back of the CD's performance? Now we're hearing, let's say, reduced prices. Beverage Association is saying they're going to reduce prices. Positive vibes all across the country. Are you popping the champagne just yet?
I like that. All right, Evans. What I would say is this. Stability is important. Economic stability is critical, because on the back of stability, you are able to have predictability and people are able to plan. And so I think all private sector in particular are always looking for some stability. So they will be able to plan. So anything that appears to make our currency relatively stable is one that everybody must be happy about. Now, this current, shall I call it, relative strength of the currency, I think it's on the back of the initiative that we put in place to ensure that, first and foremost, we stop individuals from buying gold and exporting gold. monopolizing
Through
it.
the gold bond initiative.
Monopolizing it for the gold bond to be the only body that will regulate it and literally offtake it. And also ensure, for example, that they are not buying it at the what you call forest bureau rates that used to be in the past, but do use what you call the interbank rates, and ensure that the gold is sold and the inflows that have to do with foreign exchange inflows are brought back into the economy. I've been in the finance ministry, as you know, and I can tell you that we used to sometimes simply celebrate when Cocoa Board does a syndication. Back in time, and that syndication was bringing a total of 800 million USD. That used to be like, oh my God, so much foreign currency is available. And on the back of that foreign currency, we were able to support the city. Now, we're talking about an initiative today that within the first 4 months has brought into this country 2.6 billion USD in 4 months. Annualize that and see the amount of foreign exchange that is being brought into the economy. Now, if you have an initiative like that, that is far more than what cocoa syndication, was going to be giving us. That is far more than the IMF, should I call it program, was going to be giving us on an annual level. And remember, this IMF program, often when the moment comes for tranches to be released, those are the moment where the city sees some relative stability. But now you have an initiative that literally could be bringing into this country billions of dollars across the month to the end of the year. It's a game changer. It's a complete game changer. I've heard our friends on the other side claim, no, it's not our policy. It was not your policy. You didn't have a gold board. You didn't have what you call the creativity to know that you could actually purchase gold using the interbank.
But they were doing it through the BOG.
I'm getting there. Getting an interbank rate even for purchasing of gold. You didn't have what you call the creativity to know that gold can be sold and the foreign exchange brought into the economy. That's not what we're doing. That's not what we're doing.
They already had built reserves with the BOG.
I'm talking about gold reserves.
And they had actually ordered the BOG.
We're not talking about gold reserve. Two separate reality.
To buy back a lot of the gold.
It's not the gold reserve that is bringing the transformation. It's the inflow of USDs into the economy. That liquidity. So anybody who therefore now has access to that liquidity, going through what you call the whole, the banks and making it be available through free transaction, that is the game changer. So I see them very desperate to want to take credit. Desperate to take credit for appreciation of the city. Yet they are such cowards, they won't take responsibility for Galamsey. They are cowards who won't take responsibility for doing so. They are cowards who take responsibility for anything that is negative, but they want to ride on the back of something positive. And that I'm telling you that is why that group would have to take a long time in opposition until they have what you call a rebirth of their soul to appreciate that politics must be done on the back of truth.
How long do you think they'll be in opposition?
No, I'm not there. The people of Ghana will make that determination. But the point I'm making that in terms of the economy, what is happening? My good brother, Atu Forsen, Minister for Finance, said that this strength of the city is not going to be a 9-day wonder. Having been in the shoe that he's been in, even though I was deputy, he used to be deputy, now finance minister, I can tell you that on the back of what's happening at the gold board, it's going to be a game changer.
And you think this stability can be sustainable the period?
I would say that.
Because remember, another factor that has contributed to this is the weakening of the US dollar.
I've heard
based on Trump's own action.
I keep hearing that.
And
obviously, that's not true.
Why?
If the weakening of the dollar is the reason why the city is getting strength, the Naira shouldn't be having problems. The Vietnamese currency shouldn't be having problems. Other currencies should all be appreciating against the dollar. So you can see a kind of desperation. First, they try to say it is because of us. It's because of the MPP. It's not true. It's because of the Trump policy. It's not true. What is happening is something very unique on the back of what you call a policy initiative that is allowing for a lot of inflows of USD and foreign exchange into the economy. And that is what the reality is. Anyway, but what I said is this, that on the back of all that, it's also a clear determination on the part of not just the BOJ but or the finance ministry to ensure that as much as possible we keep expenditure and revenues close together. It will be easy, but once you have a determination, you can do it. We've done it in the past, and I believe we can do it again.
I mean, let's talk about governance. Let's talk about the judiciary, to be very specific. We're currently having an unprecedented triggering of Article 146 of the Constitution that may end up with the current Chief Justice, the substantive one who's currently suspended, removed. The MPP accuses the NDC, of which you are the General Secretary, of plotting this whole removal of the CJ while you were in opposition, and that this is just a manifestation of a grand plot that you as a General Secretary would have supervised in opposition. Are they right?
I think our friends on the other side are, how will I call it? I think they are panicking. I think they are panicking because possibly they were really hoping that a lot of the shenanigans that they were involved in while they were in office over the last 8 years, a lot of the corruption, a lot of the crimes that they committed against this country, some way, somehow, the presence of the Chief Justice was going to be help to them. That's the way I feel it. Because the protest is simply unreasonable. First and foremost, nothing that has been done so far is against the constitution of the country. And this obviously will not be the first time that we'll have a situation where an individual in a high place is being investigated to find out whether a prima facie case can be established, and if that is established, then a decision can be made regarding the person's position. This is a Chief Justice that even before John Mahama became the president of Ghana, there were already petitions that had already been brought up against her. So it's nothing new. We're simply allowing the process to take its course. Now, if the Chief Justice is proven not to have any case to answer, clearly she will be given an opportunity to continue. But if a case is found against her, she is not above the law.
Yeah, but you say that you mentioned the Constitution, but in opposition.
Yeah.
I remember you issued a statement once, very, very unhappy with the judiciary, very, very unhappy with outcomes from the courts, and actually warning that the judiciary needed reforms. I mean, I'm using euphemisms that paint this picture in nicer words, but you were very, very unhappy. Yeah. Your Deputy General Secretary, Mr. Bande, is on record to have said that the Chief Justice will have to go. I mean, you listen to that and read a statement from the past and the warnings that you've issued to the judiciary and to the Chief Justice in particular. And why not come to the conclusion that indeed you're executing something that you had already planned to do when you're in position?
What I could tell you is this. The motto for our country is freedom and justice. It means this country's very soul thrives when there's freedom for its citizens to be able to fulfill their potential and do what they can to be able to make our country great and strong. That's important. Meaning the unleashing of our creativity as a result of freedom. But the second and equally important is the need for justice. Now, if it's pretty clear that the one who is supposed to be in charge of the justice of our country herself is not able to live up to the high, should I call it, mantra of being or doing things according to the law, then charity must begin at home. As far as I'm concerned, she has nothing to fear if she has done everything okay. But if she's done, if there's a problem and it's established through, and I trust the people who are the Council of State, including former, should I call it, Chief Justice of our country, former Parliament, former Speaker of Parliament. I think that those are noble people who will not simply go on what you call a witch hunt, that they will be able to do a proper job in order to be. And I know GM as a person. GM is not somebody that you call, should I call it, a petty-minded person who simply want to take an innocent person and punish an innocent person. So clearly, once a case is established against her, she has to go. And if the case is shown that she actually has no case to answer, then there's no problem. NPP's worry is that they feel her departure makes it difficult for them now to feel safe when cases are brought against them, because now they are afraid that the person who possibly could be there and possibly manipulate the system to help us is no more there. That, I think, is their fear.
If that is true, then the opposite could also be true, which is that the NDC, if what you're saying is true, then the opposite could also be true, which is that the NDC also fears that if you keep her there, we will also struggle when cases go to the Supreme Court, so get her out.
I think we are looking for justice. And justice simply means that if you truly are innocent, you should go. And if you are guilty, you should be punished.
But she has represented that, hasn't she?
I'm saying that this is a case where a prima facie case has been established against you. And if a prima facie case has been established against you, it means that you don't deserve to be where you are. And if you don't deserve to be where you are, you go. And somebody else take the place. So a bar is being set. Whoever is taking over has to ensure that you need to live up to the bar. It's as simple as that. So I think our friends are afraid. Maybe Chachuchikata was prophetic when he said, "He who sows the wind reaps the whirlwind."
You think she's reaping the whirlwind?
I would say that possibly if you were busy presiding over a justice system, well, maybe you yourself were not doing exactly what you ought to do, you obviously are reaping a whirlwind.
I mean, talking about the Chief Justice, we have an acting one now. Today, the minority in Parliament is accusing your government of violating the Constitution. In fact, they've already said that they're going to trigger an impeachment process to remove the president because the president is out of the country. The vice, we know, is on sick leave. The Speaker of Parliament is out of the country. The acting Chief Justice who should take over, there is no clarity, and then they've said to confirm this, that he has officially been sworn in to act as president. So they say there's a vacuum there, which is a breach of the 1992 Constitution, that there must be a clear swearing in of an acting president. Are they right? I mean, you sit in cabinet, so you will know that. When the president was traveling, he knew that the vice wasn't there. You must have known that you're one of your own central pillars of the party, who happens to be the Speaker of Parliament, also left on the 8th from what the minority tell us. Do you agree that you have violated the Constitution? And if once you violate the Constitution, it's a high crime. The president deserves to be impeached for it.
I'll leave that to our legal people to be able to speak to that. I'm not in a position to explain all this constitutionality or legality. So I think I would rather not jump into that one. I would rather allow our legal people, because I mean, the president is well advised. So I'll find out what the legality is. If it were an omission, that clearly is an omission that we learn from in order to be able to do better. But as I said, I would rather leave that for our legal people to speak to.
Would you know if any swearing had happened? If the line of succession as far as the Constitutional Council was triggered formally?
That's what I'm saying. I'm not in a position to speak to that. So I rather would allow on this particular one people better placed and who are far more versed on the Constitution to be able to speak to that. Let's
talk about the future of the NDC, and the time is right for that. This is John Mahama's final time. You've called it his legacy term. In fact, you said he said that to you in the cabinet. That means he's not going to be on the ballot for the first time since 2012.
Sure.
That's a long time. The party...
Since 2012. Okay, on the ballot, yeah, because he was vice for 2000.
On the ballot.
Okay.
Since 2012. And the party will have to put a new name, a new face on the ballot in 2028. You have to go through a transition.
Sure.
Transitions can prove the undoing of a political party.
True.
Are you acutely aware of this?
Yeah.
And how are you approaching this as a general secretary of the party?
We appreciate that even His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, if he had stood as an independent candidate, he would not have been able to win. And you know the history of independent candidates in our country. Alan Shomate thought he was capable of doing a lot until you saw that going independent candidate, you will be struggling for 1% and 0.2.5% because you need a vehicle. So even he, as our leader, our presidential candidate, and now the president, appreciate that it is the vehicle, the NDC, that was a means for which that success has come. So what is important to ensure that this vehicle does well, and the way this vehicle does well is for him to do well. It's for the people who are working in government to appreciate that it is a collective job that needs to be done. It's for the party to ensure that we are true to the things we promise to the people of Ghana. And as long as this vehicle is strong, when the moment comes for us to be able to put a new driver on the vehicle, we will be able to sell that new driver on the back of the collective success that this vehicle has achieved. And that is what matters more. So that's why there's actually the need for a complete dedication and focus on ensuring that NDC does well. NDC lives up to the expectation of the people of Ghana. I think let's say it this way, my personal belief is that one of the things that must happen in this country as part of the reset is for us to transcend this whole messianic feeling. I'm a messiah. Without me, nothing gets done. No. You drop dead today, instruments would come up. And those instruments could even go to the next level. Why? Because as I mentioned to you earlier, I believe that there is something mighty that wants to use Ghana to go to the next level. And JM is simply opening a door to something even bigger about to happen. And I believe NDC as a vehicle is a vehicle that is going to be used to accomplish that. I hope MPP would awaken in order for them to prove themselves worthy, so that when the moment comes, that grand thing that wants to happen in the country can, over time, start finding them a worthy vehicle as well. But it simply means that they have to, as it were, move away from the darkness that engulfs them, for the deception that has become the order of the day, for the DNA of arrogance and thinking or you can insult intelligence, that must go. NDC itself must appreciate that much more humility must be the way to go. And
has internal jostling started already?
Oh, but it's normal. It's a human thing. Almost every politician has an aspiration.
Do you have to
become? let me just say it this way. I believe when the moment comes and the people of the NDC feel that A or B or C is the one to go, that person will be given an opportunity. So for now, it should be a focus on ensuring that the party and the government succeeds. And at the end of the day, I've always had total faith in our delegates. And when that moment comes, our delegates are able to make the choice they make. And I can tell you also another thing about this party. It's a party whose spirit doesn't like shenanigans. It's a party whose spirit doesn't like too much orchestration. If you watch the people who have emerged and led this party, they've always been people who emerge on the back of who they are. Jerry Rawlings, natural leader. Prof. Mills, absolutely not somebody like he said, I wasn't desperate to become a president. John Mahama, in 2000, people don't know, in 2000, we were literally begging him. He didn't want to even take the position of running mate. So those are individual. So all this orchestration and jostling, some of the people who may be thinking about it think twice. The spirit of this party doesn't like shenanigans, doesn't like orchestration, doesn't like manipulation. So relax. When the moment comes and the people decide that this is you, you will emerge. If it's not you, you will not emerge. But even the final thing I will say, I don't know whether we are almost reaching there, but the final thing I will say, and this one is a call I want to make to all Ghana. I just want us to focus a little more on the country. If it is possible, let our anthem, which says, God bless our homeland Ghana, become a prayer that every single one of us can make every day. God bless our homeland Ghana and make our nation great and strong. Whether you are NDC, MPP, whether you are CPP, whatever you are, if all of us can understand that mantra and use it as a prayer on a daily basis, this country will become better, because then we start to embodying better values. We start to embodying principles that will make our country good. And if all of us can, every day at 11:11, just utter the prayer.
You've got
God
to the 11.
Bless our homeland,
11.
and make our nation
But I need
great
to ask
and
you
strong.
more directly. You're talking about the future of the party. Is Fifi Kwete interested in taking that?
You keep going back to that.
Because what
What matters is not whether Fifi Kwete has an aspiration or not. What matters is whether the people in the NDC would maybe find Fifi Kwete or find another person as worthy to become a leader. When the moment comes, we leave the choice to the people.
But if the people come to you, like you said, JM did, you may want to say, I'm not interested. But you have to be interested if they come to you.
I would just say that when the moment comes, always say, we'll let the people of the NDC make that choice at the right time.
It's instructed that you haven't said no.
Yeah, because there's no need to say no.
So
it is normal on the part of any politician to want to go to the next level. But what matters is not what you want, it is what the people want. And that must always be number one.
And very finally, before we wrap up, the MPP today has been demanding that members of the party executive leadership who have now been moved into government positions should resign their positions in the party. Do you agree with them?
Let me allow MPP to do what MPP believes.
Because they say they did that.
They need
their
to,
general secretary, they actually produced a quote from their general secretary then, who had asked party folks who had now gone into government to resign their position in the party. Is that a good governance principle that you believe the NDC should follow?
I would just say that we should allow the MPP to do what they've got to do. Let me not prejudge them. They believe that's the best way they want to go about it. I would say that they have bigger problems to resolve. And the problem they have to resolve have to do with the very DNA of the party, the very values of the party. Those are the things the MPP must focus on. But good luck to them as long as they continue defending people like Bawumia, thinking that some way, somehow, people who have shown not to have what you call basic capacity to tell the truth, people who do not have the capacity to admit to their mistake, people who don't have capacity, responsibility for their wrong, they believe that those people can continue leading them. Good luck.
And that is the General Secretary of the NDC, Fifi Kwete, my guest on PM Express. I'm grateful that you joined us.
It's always a pleasure.
So far, so good. Say open online portal e Ghana. Nipa share, nipa follow, nipa comment here. To my best of knowledge, without any biases, PENDREAM TV.